anything that you're about to see us do at home.
Ever.
On this episode of MythBusters, Adam and Jamie dial in on a fabulous fable about two phone books. Interleaving their pages apparently makes them impossible to pull apart.
We will need to bring some more power.
Who's the boss now?
And then, who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage
Goodbye, my little friend.
and Jamie Heineman.
Is that beautiful or what?
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience.
Cue dramatic music.
Joining them, Carrie Byron,
Criminals beware the mark of the MythBusters.
Grant Imahara,
Let's eat.
and Tori Belleci.
Call me the cougar.
They don't just tell the myths,
Mr. Heineman, you are go for launch.
they put them to the test.
What's this? A new suggestion?
Yeah, these guys have really outdone themselves, man. They have filmed an entire MythBusters segment themselves in order to give us a story idea.
What's the myth?
Well, they're claiming that if you take two phone books and interleave their pages, one by one by one, that those two phone books absolutely cannot be separated.
That's right down our alley. I think we should take that on.
I totally agree.
Yep, not only did our intrepid Dutch duo, Tim and Steve, create this crazy spoof, they put forward the intriguing sounding myth that two phone books with their pages interleaved are impossible to rent asunder. But could the alternating pages of a phone book that haven't been glued, taped, or bound really stick together under any circumstances?
It's pretty clear where we have to start.
I agree. You know, in their testing, the clamp with which they held their phone books eventually failed, and they stopped testing there.
Well, that's a problem we'll have to solve then.
I agree. But first, let's get interleaving.
In true MythBusters style, the phone book fable is going to get ramped, ripped, and revved up until the boys get answers. But before the envelope pushing begins, let's take you back to the beginning.
The very first thing we have to do is interlace these things, like this. I think it's going to be a little harder than that.
Long and tedious task ahead? Cue our editor's favorite solution, the time lapse.
You ready to interleave some of these phone books?
Yep.
All right.
With the two phone books secured, Adam and Jamie
We've just passed 500 pages total. We're cruising.
simply take turns flipping pages, pausing only when they get to M for Mafia.
Does this remind you of when you used to count money for the mob?
I was a hitman. I wasn't a money counter.
Almost there.
And with all 800 pages of each book interleaved, the guys begin to get a grip on the science of this myth.
I can't believe there's nothing holding those two things together but friction.
It's really quite amazing. I mean, when you tug on these, it's like they're glued together, but they're not. It can only be the friction of each page where it contacts the next one, and times 1,000 or so, it adds up to a lot.
What I've got here is a lesson in friction. While this might look like two 800-page phone books, Jamie and I have interleaved them, or for you magic aficionados, we've done a Pharaoh shuffle. And apparently, almost nothing will rent these two things asunder. And we're going to see if that's true.
In an attempt to handle the truth, Adam and Jamie are focusing on friction. Friction can be defined as the force resisting the relative motion of two surfaces. For example, the pages of a phone book. Static friction is the force keeping two stationary objects from moving. And kinetic friction occurs when two objects that are already moving rub up against each other. That's the theory on what's holding the books together. To help pull them apart, the guys rigged two plywood handles along the book's spines. But neither these nor the tape you can see will interfere with the experiment.
All right. You want to do some tug of war?
Okay.
Well, no, Jamie and I are about to have a tug of war. And we are going to try and pull the phone book apart, but of course, I think we're also going to try and pull each other across the shop. And I think it's actually probably a pretty even game. We weigh about the same. Jamie may be a little bit stronger than me, but I fight dirty.
It's been a while since Adam
Oh, check out my guns.
and Jamie have gone head to head. But it's a grand old MythBusters tradition that underhand tactics
I've still got a couple of tricks up my sleeve.
bending and then breaking the rules are all part of the fun. Until someone loses. But there'll be no cheating here. It's a straight tug of war. A matching of muscle, mano y mano.
I'm gonna run out of room here real quick, so.
Maybe you won't run out of room so quick.
Of course, aside from pride and sensitive egos, what's really on the line is the myth. Will the phone book pages stand up to our macho men?
You ready?
There we go.
First to cross the line loses.
Oh, I believe I'm winning.
Equally matched in weight, traction was the ultimate decider in this test. And with no time to substitute an hydraulically powered robot, Jamie has to take his medicine. But more importantly, despite being fueled by the red-hot fires of competition,
Good job. The phone book's still together, though.
Adam and Jamie failed to make an impression on the phone books.
Although I may have had better traction on my shoes than Jamie, I'd say it's Adam and Jamie 0, phone book 1. This puppy didn't creak, didn't move, didn't budge. We're gonna need some more help.
Before the help arrives, there's time for a little gloating.
Dude, this is like a professional wrestling trophy belt, right? I'm gonna wear this around, like, check it out, Heineman!
Who's the boss now?
Later,
Are you ready to fight the Spartans?
the MythBusters team up on their quest to test the phone book friction fable.
1, 2, 1!
But next,
Ready.
MythBusters,
They're beating us, you pansies!
Adam and Jamie put the test in testosterone. Adam and Jamie are muscling up to test the tall tale of interlaced phone books that are impossible to pull apart.
This experiment is one of those things that is totally counterintuitive because, you know, it's just a couple of phone books interleaved together. There's no glue, there's no tape, there's no screws. They're just sitting there, those phone book pages, and we should be able to pull them apart quite easily, but somehow I don't think so.
If you don't believe Jamie, here's a sentence you don't often hear on MythBusters. This is one you can try at home. And while you're at it, here's something else you can try at home with phone books. The tall tale that it takes a strong man to tear a phone book in half.
As long as we've got all these phone books around, I thought this is an opportunity to learn how to rip a phone book.
And Adam's tricky technique is this. Bend the book into a V separating the pages. And that means you tear one page at a time and not all 800. Simple.
This is like a sickness. It's like an addiction. I gotta rip up another one. Oh, yeah.
But the problem with addictive highs are the inevitable subsequent lows.
I know I'm a myth buster, but I'm a little sad to find out that the trick is so easy.
And Adam knows the only way to cheer himself up is to beat, or could that be cheat, Jamie in a contest.
Jamie, come here. Got a challenge for you. Ready?
Okay.
Can you do that?
I don't know. Let's see. I've never done this before.
After seeing Jamie struggle for a few minutes, Adam adds the ultimate insult by offering to help.
Here, I'll make it easy for you.
Okay.
Start from the other side. Take it, bend it all the way like this, and you're kind of spreading out all the pages and tearing them one at a time. That's the trick, and it should tear open. Come on, you're stronger than me. What, you gonna let me show you up on television?
You want to get whacked in the head with a phone book?
It's a fun trick to know. I think we should practice.
You go right ahead.
Okay. I became pretty good at tearing phone books during this episode. In fact, we shot so much material that we couldn't fit it all into the broadcast show. So, we put some up on the web for you. Log on to discovery.com/MythBusters and see what you've been missing.
We weren't able to pull the phone books apart. That tells us something, but not specifically how strong they are. So we're going to test them with this scale.
Yep, this scale will measure exactly how much tug
I'm ready when you are.
the phone books are being subjected to.
All right, what do we get to?
Not bad.
320 pounds.
320 pounds sounds significant, but what we need is a little perspective.
To put that amount of force in perspective, it's the weight of your average linebacker.
Impressive. But what's next?
Let's get everyone in the building on this.
Okay.
Yep, it's time to number up.
You ready to fight the Spartans?
With 9 muscled Mythbusters and Adam split into 2 teams of 5,
1, 2, 3, like that.
we're about to see exactly what these phone books are made of.
Lions! Oh, they're beating us, you pansies!
Okay.
So far, it's phone books 1, everybody else 0. 5 people on 5 people tug of war, generating almost 2,100 pounds of force, the weight of a small car, and the phone books are steadfastly refusing to be separated.
Which leaves one final manpower option. All 10 Mythbusters in one mighty team. Mush.
Lunge! Tug! All right, what do we get? We got up to 4,000 pounds. You guys called it up. You called up the beast. And it didn't do anything.
Come on, guys, do I have to keep asking? 4,000 pounds is...
About the weight of a full-size pickup truck. And still, we weren't able to separate the phone books.
We gave everything to this phone book. It looked right back at our face and said, "Pugh! Is that all you've got?"
We will need to bring some more power.
Coming up. Adam and Jamie are focusing on the phone book friction fable. And the ramping up has already begun.
Dude, this thing is a behemoth. What are we going to pull it with now?
Rental cars. We said we were going to ramp it up, so we have. We've got 2 sedans. They're about 140 horsepower each. We're going to see if we can rip those phone books apart.
Yep, manpower didn't do it for him. So it's on to horsepower and a whole heap of horsing around.
I love full insurance!
It's a simple plan using the same 2 books that withstood the war of tugs.
I lassoed myself.
Adam and Jamie are going to drive in opposite directions. And the only thing that could prevent them from driving off into a dusty sunset is the interleaved pages of the directories. Remember, there's no glue, and the plywood clamps are simply providing a firm grip.
Rig's ready, I'm ready. What do you think's gonna happen?
Well, I think the rig's going to break before the books do.
This is it.
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Can the drag created by the 800 pages of 2 phone books stop these 2 drag racers?
I'm starting to spin.
Yeah, I'm spinning too.
Come on, spin some more.
Incredibly, with the force gauge peaking at 4,800 pounds, the phone books, unlike the car's tires,
That's fun.
hold firm.
Still intact.
I smell rubber burning, but I don't see no broken rig or a phone book.
Well, at this point, it's phone book 3, Jamie and Adam, zilch. I think the phone book's feeling pretty self-satisfied, but we're not done by a long shot.
Next, Cary Grant.
This thing is impressive.
It is. And, you know, I have a theory. I think there's more going on here than just friction of page on page. I think it has to do with the pages being stacked and the weight that they put on each other, as well as there may be some sort of a finger puzzle thing where the harder you pull, the more it grabs.
Well, it's clear if we're going to get these things separated, we're going to need bigger vehicles and a lot more traction.
Well, you know what? I've got both.
No, really?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome!
Yep, Jamie has contacted the Military Vehicle Technology Foundation and head honcho Jacques Littlefield,
Wow.
who can't wait to show off the largest private collection of armored fighting vehicles in the world.
The earliest tank I have, which is a World War I tank built by the U.S., it was actually the first tank the U.S. built.
And for the next happy hour,
This is amazing.
Well, let me show you some other stuff.
as Adam and Jamie get the full guided tour,
That's kind of cute. It's almost cuddly.
you could say they resemble two toddlers let loose in a toy factory.
Nobody moves, nobody gets hurt.
Yeah, I know. Are you jealous? I'm not going to touch that. There we go. Now I'm ready. There's a lot of munitions down here.
With playtime reluctantly over, Jacques introduces us to two potential phone book rippers, an armored personnel carrier
Whatever else.
and an M551 Sheridan.
This is the famous Death Stalker.
And with the rides ready, it's time to raise the curtain on the MythBuster Military Ballet.
This is awesome! This is like some sort of a sideshow with me.
The toughest thing about ramping this test up is how to hold on to the books. This is an opportunity to not mess around.
Nice.
If these clamps give way, I'll eat my beret. So we're going from a car and some wood clamps to a tank. That's something a little heavier.
And with phone books held snugly in their brand new bindings,
What are you, the ghost of Christmas futures?
the gang chain the metal monsters together.
There you go.
And remember, their interleaved pages are the only things holding the two books together.
I don't know about you, but I think we're ready to start stretching.
Coming up on MythBusters.
We put phone books to the ultimate test.
But first,
Welcome back. Here's where we stand so far. Jamie and I got word that interleaving the pages of two phone books yielded something incredibly strong.
Does this remind you of when you used to count money for the mob?
I was a hitman, I wasn't a money counter.
So we did it, and we tugged on them. We couldn't separate them. We got 10 friends together. They couldn't separate them. We got 2 cars, and still, those phone books wouldn't be separated. But we're not going to leave it there. We went out and found a couple of tanks. Behind me is 30 tons of military steel, 650 horsepower. Are they going to separate the phone books? At this point, I have no idea. But I do know that something is going to happen.
so it's the 14-ton, 300-horsepower M113A1 fire support vehicle. And the M551 Sheridan, also known as the Death Stalker, which packs a healthy 350 horsepower and weighs in at 15 tons, versus 2 phone books.
I was trying to make a phone call. That's all I wanted to do.
The question is, can the pages take the pressure?
If this doesn't separate the phone books, I'd call them effectively unseparatable.
I think so.
All right, let's see what happens.
Ah, I love the smell of diesel in the morning.
Okay, go ahead and pull slack.
With the lightest of touches on the throttle, the tanks ease delicately apart. The careful positioning not reflected by the force gauge needle.
That's 1,000 pounds of force so far.
With the slack taken up, Jamie signals the start. 30 tons of mighty military machines slowly begin to move in opposite directions, and the force gauge climbs quickly. But the courageous phone books, you couldn't call them yellow, hang on for all they're worth.
There it went.
Separated, it worked.
But the Yankin tanks finally win the tug of war.
Darn.
You wanted to see some metal breaking?
Yeah, well, I wanted to see these things spin, burn rubber.
No fun like the rental cars, these puppies had traction and power to spare. And talking of power,
Let me see how many pounds it took. 8,000 pounds of force is what it took. Well, our military steel was up to the task of separating the phone books. And lest you think that 8,000 pounds of force is not a lot, let me put it in perspective. We could hang both of those rental cars from those interleaved phone books and it wouldn't have broken them. That's how much force we're talking about. It's pretty amazing.
So it turns out that interlaced phone books are not, in fact, indestructible. You just have to have a couple of tanks hanging around to do it.